and welcome to Sim.bc, where right as up now is a 21, a 27, 21, 27, it's pretty late. It's getting pretty late, mates. So if I'm like a bit disorientated, it could be because for one, I didn't have that great of a sleep yesterday. Could be the case, right? Could be the case. Could be argued, right? Second of all, it could be because it's 2.5 hours until the day's ending and I haven't recorded, I haven't been editing, I haven't been uploading, I haven't been rendering, I haven't been processing. So needless to say, there are a few things that needs to be happening here today quite bloody fast. Otherwise, we're going to be... Well, stress isn't taking over my life as it is, and it's not going to be better if all of this self-imposed stress that I'm putting on myself with these videos is going to pile up upon that too, right? So if I'm a bit disorientated, yeah, could be because of that reason. Now, it's all going to be better after next Monday, because after next Monday, I'm going to have plenty of time in comparison to what I've had up until, well, now, this semester, because we've been doing the thesis, woohoo! And it's close to be done, so, 2 thumbs fresh for that. I'm piling on to that. I've also been looking at the new series, full of inspirational quotes, such as, "Sir, how are you? Is everything good today?" And the main character just responding with, "Can we really be so lucky? Can we really be so lucky to think that everything's okay?" And I'm like, wow, deep, many different levels. Am I right, people? Am I right? Anyway, that's not what we're going to talk about today. We're actually going to get straight into it. Why? Well, because why push it? Am I right? So, yesterday we were talking all about, it doesn't really matter what you say. It's more a matter of who is saying what. Now, obviously, that isn't straightly, generally the case, but just because you said something doesn't make it funny. It's also depending on who said what. But what we didn't discuss there, even though we discussed, contextualization and who said what, and the social structure of how we've been evolving as a society and as people. I know, all good stuff, entertaining, maybe on the down low, right? But what we're going to talk about today is something that is quite interesting. Something that everybody probably has been discussing. Who is over the age of, I don't know, what we're going to say, 15, high school, somewhere around there? When you were allowed to express your own opinion and have people shit all over you because they think that their opinion is more entitled than your own? Yeah, you've had this conversation. You know what I'm talking about. Standing at the water fountain. I guess nobody does that nowadays. I guess standing at your hoverboard with your 420 Blaze and your phone. Yeah, I'm current, am I right? I'm hip. Anyway, and we've all had this discussion, and it is, can you joke about everything? Can you? Really? And as of always, I'm not on either side on the spectrum, or rather, I am very much on one side of the spectrum. However, this is just an opinion, right? It's as equally as entitled as your own. But I'm persuaded by facts, or I tend to argue that I am. Not always the case. So if you feel like I am very much on one side, and this entire discussion / presentation it might be, is very one-sided, then you're gonna know why. Well, because I am on that side of the argument, and I might even ridicule the other side. Not that you should do that, but it's just the nature of how it goes, especially when you talk about comedy and don't have all the facts straight. Because if I did have all the facts straight, then I could say that the place that I am at, right, the one place that I've chosen is the objectively the correct one. Because if I had all the facts and a correct understanding of the subject, then it wouldn't be much of a discussion to be had. Right? So just keep that in mind, and I can be persuaded to any other side based on your arguments out there if you can persuade me to go one side or the other. So leave your comments in the comment section below right now, and maybe rather in the end when you've heard everything, so that we can pass on, pre-judgment. Would be awesome, mates. About, do you think that you can joke about everything? And as I said, this is going to be probably more of a discussion presentation about my take on the topic, more than a factual base that you can use in a thesis of your own. Probably not gonna be that academic, yeah? Anyway, we're moving into it. So yesterday, I was talking a lot about that it depends a lot on who says what. And to just carry on to that statement, yeah? I've been watching lots of comedy as of late. Actually, yeah? Think I'm rather funny throwing that in? Probably not. Probably too much meta. Anyway. And they have all been discussing in one manner or another, even if it's social critique, or if it's direct, if it's indirect, if it's elevated, if it's on the down low, if it's the subtext, or if the sub-content, or if it's the main thing of the show. They've been taking up contextualization together with can you joke about everything? And a common theme that usually comes up when you talk about can you joke about anything tends to be racial, sexist stuff. I mean, I've seen Jimmy Carr once saying that, or I heard him say once, I should say, probably a bit more accurate, you know, when you've been watching it on YouTube and you haven't actually been there. You can't probably say you've been watching because, well, people probably think that you've been all the way over to the UK and watching, when that isn't the case. Unfortunately, I would love to do it someday. Anyway, and it was basically saying you can joke about everything that is your own stereotype. Right? I mean, couldn't you? Couldn't you joke about everything that's your own stereotype? And he was basically making the case, and I'm not saying that I support this, I'm not saying that I don't. Saying basically that, well, I'm white, so what's the stereotype here? Well, Catholic school, all of them good jokes, that's connected to that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then you can probably look that up all over the internet. Even though I probably would hesitate to do that if I were you, because if you don't know what I'm talking about, then you're probably not of the age to talk about it, which is probably a good way, you know, you should look at it, because if you're not on the age of talk about it, you're probably in the risk zone, mate. Probably not the best delivered joke that was ever there. Anyway, and he continues on talking about, you know, Catholic school, and you can be a racist about that, you know. That's kind of the stereotypes that you can play on if you're white. And I know this wasn't a fair representation. I know, before you raise your pitchforks out there, you're saying, like, you can't be racist just because you're white. That's probably a black thing, right? And can you even say black these days? Oh, it's the manner of all political minefield that we're getting ourselves into. Should it be the best that I'm a bit tired when I'm doing this? Probably not, but we'll continue anyway, because that's how you know you're making the greatest content, right? When you're so tired that you have no choice when being honest. And then you can play off that honesty. Yes, you know, I was tired, I didn't know what I was talking about. And people are like, totally, I see what you're saying, no problem. Woo! Ethical conundrum avoided. Am I right? Anyway, so people are usually saying that, or I've seen a fair amount of people making the case. So there seems to be a bit of a consensus in the industry of comedy, at least, as far as I've been interpreting it, and as always, as far as I've been interacting with something, because I can just speak for myself, right? Can't speak for anyone else. It's my interaction, my interpretation. Yeah? Good. Context is important. But is context really that important? Because many people are making the case, as I said, that, well, you can joke about your own stereotypes. I mean, the black people can joke about black stereotypes. I mean, the white people can joke about white stereotypes. And, you know, Asians can joke about Asian stereotypes, and so on and so forth. But the argument that we're presenting here, the point of matter of discussion is that, can you really joke about everything? And I would argue, yes. Yeah, you can joke about everything. Now, why couldn't you? But there is a distinct difference between a joke and a joke. Right? I think that everybody probably knows this. And if that sounded a bit abstract and you're thinking like, excuse me, sir, but I didn't quite get the hang of that, yeah? I didn't really realize what you were talking about, what you were going on about. And let me explain you. Joke and comedy usually comes from two different places. It's either or the one, right? It's usually those two. I'm gonna say 95% just to say that, you know, I'm pretty confident that it is from those two only, but I'm still leaving some room for you to criticize me, and I can say, you know, 5%, am I right? Anyway, I would argue that it comes from mainly two sources. These two sources are a source of happiness, joy, and good love on earth, and the other one is sadistic pieces of shit that know that they're stupid and that they're doing something wrong. Those are the two sides that jokes tend to come from. And you might say that, well, it's quite easy to know, isn't it? I mean, the people who laugh when someone trips over, those are the evil people. Not necessarily true. You can joke about, and actually straight out laugh at someone who is falling over. And it can be from a fun place. It can still come from a good place. Because maybe you're watching a show. Maybe it was intended. Maybe nobody got hurt. Maybe the person who fell over is actually joking about it and thought, you know, hell of a deal. Let's just play it off cool and let everybody have a bit of a laugh, yeah? So that we all can come out of this experience a bit better. So you can't really classify you making fun of someone or you laughing at someone as comedy coming from a bad place. And this is probably not what we're gonna entitle the entire discussion being about, you know, where is a joke actually coming from, but it is an important subcontext to the entire discussion, to the entire situation, because does it come from a good place or does it come from a bad place? Now, let me just say it like this. You probably all of you have probably been in a situation when you're a couple of mates, yeah, and you invite a new guy. Or let's not say that, let's just say you're a couple of mates to make it even more intuitive. And you're all there, you're in good fun, you're in good spirit, you're having a bit of a laugh at each other, yeah, at each other's expense. For instance, I'm telling my friend that you have a bloody big shoes. You must be a clown. Everybody laughs, everybody joins in, everybody's happy, right? And then someone else says to me back like, ha, yeah, but you're fat, bastard, I hate you. You see the difference there? Clown shoes, I hate you, but try to play it off as a joke. Doesn't tend to go home that well. So there's the difference between a joke and a joke. Now, another thing could be, and this is a bit controversial, so please hold on to your hats and please don't let me blow your socks off if you're of that particular mindset that you think that you're a bit, iffy to these things that are politically correct. But I'm gonna drag, just an example. I'm not saying that I'm supporting this. An example of a joke that you probably could find in a circle of friends. So someone turns around, and this is going to be an example of good and bad as well. First the good and then the bad. See if you can spot the difference, yeah? Because it is a fine plot. It is a fine difference in between the two. So I would argue that you probably won't even see it coming. So the first person is saying, women, am I right? They should be in the kitchen making a sandwich or something like that. Now, probably playing off of context, probably playing off culture or whatever it is. That was probably a very bad place of it coming from, actually. But trying to play it off, as the typical make me a sandwich conversation that you all probably had who's in a relationship. I had it a few times. Ended me relationships, but I had it a few times. I'm not proud of it, right? But it was still there. Anyway, to a lesser extent, I would argue, but still there. Anyway, so that's the first joke, make me a sandwich. Everybody laughs because everybody knows it's obviously not intended like that. And then someone else on the other side of the table is saying, women's rights? Am I right? No? We take that all seriously now, okay? But I mean, really? Why are we taking them seriously? They're just women, am I right? I can't wait until that is clipped out of context. Yay, me! Anyway, people would probably respond in a normal manner, which would be a completely dead silence, because this joke probably, most likely, came from a place that wasn't that good. And it's quite obvious as well when you're in a group, because either people laugh a lot, and then they get the idea of, haha, wait, what did we just laugh about? But that's just, confirming that it comes from a good place. The problem is when you do jokes like the latter. When you stand in front of a crowd and the entire crowd just goes, that's really insensitive. It's not cool, man. Or when you just have someone making a bit of a joke and then the other person playing back and being straight mean. So there is a difference between, where the joke is coming from. I'm not arguing against that, I'm just acknowledging that that is the case. But should you be able to joke about everything? I would argue yes. As long as it comes from a good place, right? And many people tend to say that, it's all about context, man. It's all about knowing where you are. It's all about telling the right joke at the right time. And people say that, tragedy plus time, it makes a good joke. But I would say it's not the same thing. I would say there are some things that you just can't joke about. Like the Holocaust or 9/11. Because that shit's funny 24/7. Anyway, heard that from Bo Burnham, by the way. Just watched him. Quite a brilliant guy. Good with social commentary and social comedy. Especially if you think about, should you be able to laugh about everything? Some of his jokes really out there. You're like, like depression and self-abuse and all of those things, but he plays it into a good role, he plays it into a good way. You can really realize that even though he talks about really harsh stuff, it's a bit of it's a bit of a critiquing in society, and it comes from a good place, which is also reflected in the audience actually laughing. But some people say that, and I sidetracked that for a bit, sorry. But some people say that, tragedy plus time, that's what makes comedy. Other people say the other way around. a tragedy is not something that you joke about. It's not good for you, yeah? It's not good for anybody involved. I would argue, again, the difference. I'm standing on the opposite side. I'm like, well, I think it's hella fun. Probably matters a lot between like where you're coming from, who your parents were, how you've been joking when you grew up, what kind of people you've involved with, why and why not. I guess that plays like, I would say, a huge role in what you think is funny and what you don't think is funny. But I'm raised, yet again, I would argue, right, to be applying to logic all of the time. And I'm just going to say something that might close this entire discussion, is to conclude, right? Is that the subtone in making a joke is that, especially when you make a really cruel joke, when you make a really horrendous joke, when you make something that's despicably just really, really bad. Like, for instance, they say that they're stronger in numbers. Well, tell that to 6 million Jews. Am I right, people? No? Okay, I'm not. You know, all of these things, it's based on the idea that obviously that was a play on Nazis, right? Nazis and the Holocaust, which is obviously something really bad. And everybody knows, who is of a sane mind, that that is a really bad thing. So the subcontext, yeah, the subplot, when you're making a joke like that, is that you understand that everybody else who listens to this is probably also going to be a sane person. Yeah? It's a big deal. That I wouldn't go to a pedophile and be like, I have a really nasty joke and I think you're gonna like this one the most, right? That's not how we operate, right? That's not how anybody probably operates. What you do is that you establish that you have a bit of an audience that are not of the sick, freakishly, stupid mindset that you're, making fun of. Because if, as I said, if, you make a semi-funny joke, borderline pedophilia and all of that, as long as you know that nobody in your audience, which you should probably be able to assume, I guess, and I really hope so, that you should be able to assume that most people aren't like that. Most people wouldn't act like that, and neither would you. That's why you can make the joke, because it's understood that you wouldn't do this, and they wouldn't do that. That's what makes it funny. And what makes a joke funnier than explaining it, analyzing it, and dedicating an entire video on? Are you able to joke about everything? I know some of them might have landed, most of them probably didn't. Anyway, so to conclude, I think that you can joke about everything as long as you can assume or that you can deduct that you are not going to be a victim or a part of the thing that you're joking about, and neither is your audience, right? And make sure that it comes from a good place. And also to conclude, just I think that it's all about interpretation when it comes to jokes. Why some people might argue that, well, if you're putting it out online, then you can't really control who is watching it, which means that that's kind of undermining your argument there, isn't it? I can see that point of view. Surely I might revise that in a future video. We might actually look back at that and be like, wow, was I wrong talking about that on camera? Anyway, we'll see, mates, we'll see. But what I was going to say is that, well, it's all about interpretation when it comes to a joke, am I right? I mean, I might have one interpretation of what I'm saying. I think that it comes from a good place. I truly believe that it comes from a good place. But then the person who listens thinks that I'm bad because they interpret it in a very negative way. And they think that I told it from a bad place. And they interpret it from a bad place. Now, who is right? That's also a very big question that we unfortunately don't have time to actually take up, which we probably should have if I didn't ramble on in the beginning of the video, and which I tend to do now as well. It probably could have been a bit more of an efficient time management there. But who is actually taking the role of the interpretation here? Whose interpretation matters most? And as I was saying in the beginning, my opinion is as entitled as your opinion. That's my true belief. I think that all of our opinions is equal. Which means that if I'm telling a bit of a joke and you don't like it, who's right? In my world, neither of you are right. Which means that, well, can't punish the guy or the girl who's making the joke, can't punish the guy or the girl who's listened to the joke, but if they can, just leave, then they can do that. Not going to say that that's 100% how you deal with each and every problem, because that would just create a bully's world now, wouldn't it? Anyway, mate, I'm seeing that I'm running out of time. So anyway, have a nice one. I'm probably going to continue on this bowl and this serve tomorrow. Have a nice one, mate. See ya.